Right now on Today in New York, trying to avoid a statewide pause, Governor Cuomo triggers emergency protocols to ensure hospitals have the supplies and beds they need as COVID cases keep climbing.
And then even with those hospitalizations spiking, nurses at one Westchester County hospital, they're preparing to strike in just hours. We're going to take a look at their demands, also the hospital's response.
Plus, the rain is gone. Get ready for that cool down. Storm Team 4 watching a temperature shift as we open the final month of 2020. Oh. 2020 can be out of here.
Out of here. I'm with you.
You're out.
Well, good morning, everybody. 4 a.m. on this Tuesday, December 1st. I'm Michael Gargiulo.
I'm Darlene Rodriguez. Nice to see you.
I'm back. You know, you were here alone yesterday.
I know.
They needed a little help.
I really did. You're absolutely right. He's not telling any lies.
Restore.
That's right. To control things, to run the show, you know. Lauren Scala's tracking roads and rails. Storm Team 4's Maria LaRosa is here with the weather headlines. Big Daddy over here.
I'm telling you, bold Michael is very 2020 on brand, right? All right, guys, what a storm yesterday. You just have to sit back and look at this massive thing still going. Look at the snow into the Ohio Valley, Kentucky. Alabama and Georgia had measurable snowfall yesterday. We still haven't had that in Central Park. Not getting it today as we are talking about the chill. It's not that cold just yet. 56 on the thermometer at Central Park. Advertised this time of year in the upper 40s, 54 in White Plains, 56 in Islip, 48 in Monticello. So we find ourselves once again a day where it is the warmest right now and we go cooler from here. 50 at noontime. We hang on to mostly cloudy skies, just enough of a breeze too. It'll feel a little cooler than that. 46 by 5 p.m. and down to 42 by 10 o'clock. All right, a much quieter weather day. Let's see how traffic is shaping up. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, Maria. Good morning, everyone. There is flooding out there, flooding closures that we often see when we have rain like we did yesterday. So the Griggstown Causeway is closed in both directions between River Road and Canal Road. You also have Blackwell's Mills Road closed between Canal Road and Millstone River Road. So that's really it as far as the flooding goes. Everything else is passable. Those are the only closures, and I'll continue to keep you updated. Darlene, back to you.
Thanks so much, Lauren. 4:02 right now. Happening today, a major step in the distribution of a COVID-19 vaccine. The CDC will hold an emergency meeting to vote on who should get that vaccine first once it's authorized. The agency's advisory committee for immunization practices wants to get its recommendation out before the FDA decides on emergency authorization of a vaccine. Draft recommendations have suggested healthcare workers should be in the first group to get the vaccine. Meanwhile, Moderna says it has requested emergency clearance from the FDA for its COVID vaccine after new data suggests it's more than 94% effective.
Now, the deployment of that vaccine is part of Governor Cuomo's 5-point winter strategy to battle COVID-19. Another part of that strategy, making sure hospitals across the area are prepared for a COVID surge. Statewide, the hospitalizations now top 3,500. And you can see there, the curve is climbing. New York's leaders want everyone to know that the state could go back on pause. New York's Katherine Creag is outside Elmhurst Hospital in Queens with more on the governor's plan. That hospital was the focus of so much concern during the spring, Kat.
Oh, absolutely, Michael. And just moments ago, a security official here at Elmhurst Hospital told us that this hospital is doing well right now. But as we know, back in the spring, one medical official described it as experiencing apocalyptic conditions. And no one wants to go back to what happened months ago. So taking a look at this video, what we heard from the governor is that he wants hospitals like Elmhurst and hospitals all across our area to be prepared. He said hospitals need to be ready again for a surge in COVID cases. The governor announced patient protocols as area hospitals are on the verge, he said, of being overwhelmed. Taking a look at this, Governor Cuomo announced a winter plan that includes calling on retired doctors and nurses to return to the front lines, balance the patient load, and plan to expand the bed capacity by 50%, prepare for a field hospital. Also, elective surgeries would be halted in regions when necessary, starting with Erie County this Friday. Let's take a listen now to the governor.
We are now worried about overwhelming the hospital system. And if those numbers continue to increase, which we expect they will, you will see serious stress on the hospital system.
And something else we learned from the state, New York State is not expecting to get the same kind of relief from thousands of out-of-state doctors and nurses who helped us last spring. And that's because, Michael, so many other parts of the country are dealing with skyrocketing COVID illnesses and hospitalizations. And that's why the governor said for these hospitals to be ready. Reporting live, Katherine Creag, today in New York. We'll send it back to you, Michael.
All right, Kat, thank you very much. Meantime, new details are emerging about the plan to return the city's youngest students to school next week. Reopening will be decided school by school, and it'll be based on the space they have for social distancing.
We feel very good about our ability now to keep schools open for the duration, linking up to the time when we have a vaccine. The state obviously will always look at each situation, but they've historically given local school districts a lot of room to make the decisions that are best for their kids and their families.
Now, this phase reopen is going to start Monday, and that'll be for pre-K up to 5th grade students, but only in schools where a large number of students have chosen to learn remote only, and that's because it leaves enough space for the remaining children to attend every day and still be socially distanced. It's also going to rely on weekly COVID testing.
4:06 right now. Today, amid heightened COVID concerns, nurses at Montefiore New Rochelle Hospital are set to strike. They say it's over failed contract negotiations and lack of PPE. The hospital has fired back and has a plan for patients. Today, New York's Tracie Strahan's in New Rochelle with the latest this morning. Good morning, Tracie.
And Darlene, good morning to you. This is expected to be a 2-day strike, but it's been more than 18 months in the making, and it comes at a critical time for this hospital when it comes to COVID. Let's show you some video now because the nurses union has already announced this, and they actually did days ago, putting the hospital on notice that they would be walking out. Now, approximately 200 nurses are expected to strike. The nurses union and hospital administration are at odds over stalled contract talks. Now, the nurses union wants safer working conditions as well as better salary and benefits. Nurses at the hospital say they sometimes care for 10 patients each on the medical and surgical floors. That's according to the union. Nurses typically should be caring for 5 or 6 patients each. Hospital officials say the union is, quote, willfully misleading the public. Nurses, however, accuse the hospital of endangering patients by not working on the new contract.
It is really that detrimental for us to get a fair contract that we so deserve. We work right through COVID nonstop, tirelessly. Some of us became very ill. We lost even one of our NYC member because of COVID.
NYC is striking because they want the power to dictate staffing assignments and hand out plum positions to their friends, while Montefiore believes that decisions on how to treat patients and make these assignments rest not with any one group alone, but with the entire team caring for the patient.
Now, officials say the hospital will remain open during this 2-day strike, but some patients will have to be relocated to other facilities in order to have their care. Still, the nurses union says instead of bargaining, the hospital put those contingency plans already in place in preparations for the strike. As you bring you back live now, there are some barricades already set up in preparation for the strike. It's set to start at 7 this morning and go all the way until 7 tonight. We're live in New Rochelle this morning. Tracie Strahan, today in New York. Darlene, will send it back to you.
Okay, Tracie, thank you. It's 4:08 right now on this Tuesday morning. And later today, President-elect Joe Biden will officially introduce key members of his economic team. Meanwhile, President Trump and his lawyers are still battling states over the election outcome without much success. Here's NBC's Alice Barr.
In a move filled with both symbolic and real importance, President-elect Joe Biden receiving his first President's Daily Brief after weeks of delay. Biden now has an inside look at top-level intelligence and any national security threats. The president-elect also naming staff picks for his economic team, led by Janet Yellen as Treasury Secretary. The former chair of the Federal Reserve would be the first woman in that role if confirmed. Republicans are already lining up to fight Biden's choice for budget director, Neera Tanden. At the same time, Biden making history in naming an all-female senior communications team.
It's an all-star pick. I think that the best people for the job just happen to be women in this case.
The president-elect also moving ahead with his inauguration plans despite a hitch, suffering hairline fractures in his foot while playing with his dog. Doctors saying he could be in a boot for several weeks. President Trump tweeting get well soon, but ignoring news that Biden extended his lead in Wisconsin over the weekend after that state's partial recount wrapped up. President Trump's legal team continuing to push false allegations of widespread fraud, meeting in Arizona with a group of Republican state legislators.
Our side of the story needs to be heard.
Even as Arizona officially certified Biden's victory in the state, the Trump team making no secret of its extraordinary efforts to reverse the results of an election, turning to state lawmakers after losing at the ballot box and in a growing number of court cases. On Capitol Hill, amid the stalemate over a new COVID relief bill, sources tell NBC News a bipartisan group of senators has begun informal discussions about a possible compromise bill, though top party leaders have yet to show a willingness to compromise. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And just ahead on the Today Show, the first live interview with the nation's former election security chief, Chris Krebs. He was picked and then fired by President Trump. That's at 7 a.m.
Right now it's 4:11. We're checking with Maria LaRosa, looking at our weather. I was just looking at your temperatures there, Maria.
Yes.
Hard to believe this is the same place it was a couple days ago.
I know, right? The weather that we had yesterday is still in New England right now. Boston at 62. We're at 56, but you can see the cooler weather just off to our west. We're waiting on that to really settle in. So we're at the warmest point of the day if you're just waking up now, right now. As temperatures are at 56, we'll be right about 50 at 9 a.m. where we kind of hover through the midday under mostly cloudy skies, just a bit of a breeze. Wind chill will be a factor. Certainly as we end through tomorrow morning where we're waking up to a forecast high of into the 40s. So where do we go from here? You're pretty close to average, but we have a real dose of winter that's coming up in the 10-day forecast.
All right, Maria, thanks so much. Still ahead. A call to close certain businesses in Connecticut as COVID cases rise. The plea from doctors, and we'll tell you how the state is responding.
But first, controlling the crowds. A closer look at the new rules you'll have to deal with if you're hoping to get that selfie with the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree this year.
If you're hoping to use the subways right now, subway service is suspended until 5 a.m. They are still in the process of cleaning them. And then as far as your major commuter rail lines go, just a reminder that North Jersey coastline will remain on a modified schedule all week long, which could cause up to 15-minute delays on that line as well as the Northeast corridor. Let's take a live look outside. For those of you headed towards the Holland Tunnel, that inbound tube is closed with road work until 5 a.m. So stick to the Lincoln Tunnel or the Goethals Bridge in the meantime. You are watching Today in New York.